The left came after my dogs. You realize, of course, that this means war. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. This is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, The Guardian, you know that left-wing British paper, their science writer, Donna Liu, or at least one of their science writers, warned of significant canine carbon footprint, quoting a Pacific Conservation Biology report that also highlighted, and this is a quote, the impacts of the world's commonest large carnivore in killing and disturbing native wildlife. Wu wrote that in this country, in the U.S., studies have found that deer, foxes, and bobcats were less active in or avoid wilderness areas where dogs were allowed. And you know what? That's what we call a feature, not a bug. Let me tell you guys a true story. Years ago, two of my best friends, Matt and Allie, they were out camping with their little 50-pound lab mix named Kimbrough. And they were on a hike, and they stumbled across what must have been a 300, 400-pound black bear on their hike who was acting aggressively. Kimbrough, little 50-pound Kimbrough, took off, chased the 300-pound black bear off the trail, disappeared. Matt and Allie spent, I don't know how long looking for their dogs. Of course, that's what you do. It was getting dark. They finally had to give up. They got back, get the campfire started. Kimbrough shows up maybe an hour later. His paws are all torn up from the rough ground, chasing the dog around or the bear around, whatever other adventures he'd gotten into. So Allie, who's a vet, bandaged him up, and Matt, with the campfire, grilled Kimbrough a steak. Because awesome. Dogs and people, we take care of each other, Scott. That's who they are. That's who we are. So who in the hell, I guess this is my question, would want to get in the way between people and dogs?
Well, and not only that, I mean, from now on, every time that dog hangs around with other dogs, you know the story he's going to be telling. Like this was the best moment of his life.
Yes.
I mean, when he gets to feel like he's a wild creature for a little bit. You know, like you said, less active wildlife are certainly a benefit, a feature, not a bug. And, you know, basically what they're saying is in suburban areas, you won't have critters tipping over your trash can if you have dogs around. How is that a negative? In fact, if anything, the more we can do to drive wildlife into the wild where they will be left alone, the better off they are. There used to be a neighbor near where I lived in Pennsylvania years ago who had a deer feeding station out. She wasn't a hunter who wanted to get the deer comfortable with hanging around her property so she could shoot them when deer season came around. She just loved the adorable little creatures. And so what she did was she domesticated them so that hunters at nearby properties could easily gun them down at hunting season. So, yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously there are some challenges involved in domesticated anything. You know, the multiplication of dogs beyond our human ability to care for them is a problem, especially in some cities. But it's not a problem outside the United States. Anywhere else you go, basically feral creatures running in the streets is just expected. When I was in a city in Bolivia once, I was walking along and this dog came past me and I thought, oh, wow, this is a pretty good sized dog. He doesn't look real happy. And it's not a very wide sidewalk. And so I was trying to figure out a way to give him a wider berth. That dog went past me like he was late for work at the office. Like he didn't even see me. He's just used to living that way. I was afraid you were going to bring up the issue of flatulence, because certainly anybody who has ever owned a dog knows that they can compete with the best of the cows for being able to corrupt the atmosphere. Anyway.
You're not kidding. We have 3 dogs, and one of them, our youngest and smallest, Chewy, the permapup, had a problem with that, and Allie, our vet friend, suggested this stuff. It's this miracle stuff called perfect poop, and you put a tiny little teaspoon or a tablespoon, whatever it is, on his food with every meal. That dog used to clear the living room multiple times a night, every night. Never happens anymore.
So just put some of that on the dairy farm. What's that?
I said they're convenient scapegoats.
Yes, that's right.
Hey,
but anyway,
I'm not putting
I just
the perfect poop on my food.
There's on a very practical level, let's say that I was supportive of the mission of these people in The Guardian, and I really thought that canines were a problem, or that, frankly, the larger issue of global climate change was a problem. What do you think is the approach least likely to garner public support? Well, they found it, and they went after dogs and their masters, and that is a major strategic and tactical error.
Oh, Scott, you have no idea. Cats aren't safe either. I swear, this is from the same report. It said, while the environmental impact of cats is well known, the comparative effect of pet dogs has been poorly acknowledged, according to this research. The headline, so I went to this story about the cats. It's from a couple of years ago. And the Guardian headline on that said, "From beloved pet to biodiversity villain, what now for cats?" Bill?
Yeah.
Scott mentioned the tactical, I would say strategic error of telling people they shouldn't have dogs, but now they're bringing the dog people and the cat people together. Could they have done anything stupider?
Well, as you know, the climate crisis began when the Soviets launched Laika, the dog on Sputnik 2, which bored a hole in the ozone layer and laid waste to our atmosphere. Temperatures have been rising ever since then. It was Laika's insistence on being on board that mission that really started the space race in the first place. That dog hadn't been so damn persistent, I think we probably wouldn't be destroying the planet's biosphere the way we are. The fact that they can say that dogs contribute to global warming or climate change or whatever is an indication of just how unserious that subject is. Yeah. I had my first dog when I was 4. I love dogs. And I've been, I would say, a particularly acute observer of canine industrialization trends across the last century, and I haven't seen many. And the same goes for felines. Now, this business about felines being a biodiversity district, they've done studies in England, these little gardens in their little neighborhoods where they let the cats roam loose. And these things kill, 20 birds a day or some freaking, they're just roving death machines.
Birds that could otherwise be killed sensibly by windmills.
Precisely. But Scott's point is correct. I mean, what it really is, it's an important point. If they're saying that dogs and cats keep wildlife out of cities, then they should be getting ribbons, not obituaries in toffee nose, stuck up magazines written by people who have no friends, including dogs. They're supposed to keep these animals away. We actually have an actual genuine problem here in Los Angeles, where coyotes come down from the foothills and prey on pets. That's
it's a problem here too in Colorado.
Little
Easy
dog
pickings.
to it. Yeah, and the other thing it presupposes too, because this is the kind of person who has to find a new victim, a new problem, a new crisis, a new something. But I haven't seen a stray dog in 20 years, at least not in my neighborhood. You just don't see dogs just roaming around on the streets anymore. I see people walking their dogs all the time, but I haven't seen a stray dog in Sherman Oaks in 10 years. And this idea that these dogs are out there, revving up their motorcycles and disturbing the peace, smoking cigarettes down by
Loitering.
the 7-Eleven. Yeah, loitering and committing all acts of canine delinquency. It's just ridiculous, Steve. And it makes you wonder when or where people like scientists who write articles for places like The Guardian are going to draw the line. And the answer is they're never going to draw the line. It's going to be hamsters next. Hamsters, the threat to human survival? ? Why not?
They came for the felines, but I didn't have a feline, so I did nothing. Then they came for the canines, but I didn't have one of those. But then they came for the Homo sapiens.
And
that is always the end goal. You know what? Watching people come after dogs.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry.
Please.
It just occurred to me. I'd be willing to bet you actual money that the person that wrote this article knows a human who wears a dog collar more than she is likely to know a dog that wears a dog collar.
Yeah, and they're probably in the military. Did you see that guy? The guy who Biden set loose on the world? It's an army officer dressed up as a dog with a collar and all that stuff. It's just,
Well, that ought to scare the Chinese.
right. Okay, so here's what I do know. I love nature. I love animals, all of that good stuff. But when it comes down to what they call symbiosis between two species, it's usually pretty gross stuff, like the birds who pick waste out of crocodiles' teeth, alligators' teeth, that kind of stuff. But the human canine symbiosis is practical, it's caring, it's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful relationship in all of nature. And I don't know if that's through evolution, through the divine. I don't even care. Dogs are so perfectly attuned to their people that they probably know us better than we know ourselves, and that just I find that just the most touching thing in the world. And if you want to hear some real science, not the scare science, research shows that petting a dog is just as good for the person as it is for the dog. You're not just making the dog feel good with touch, it's making you feel good. So every time I hear somebody say, go touch grass to calm down, I think go pet dogs. Dogs are good. And so for Donna Lou and The Guardian, just chill out. Go pet a dog. You'll feel better. Might not even be a progressive anymore. That's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Thanks for watching. Go pet a dog.